Hey everybody, Jake here, and today I want to talk about finding the right pen for you. Keep in mind this is just my opinion. Get it? Opinion, because it pens. That's a terrible joke, but this is just my opinion for a few things to keep in mind when you're purchasing a pen, whether it be your first pen, your 100th pen, or your last pen. However you are going about it, before you go to purchase a pen, just some things to keep in mind. First thing I want to talk about, and one of the most important things, is the budget. Do not go outside of your budget. These pens I have here are various price ranges. We have about $2 to $10, about 20 to 30, kind of 30 to closer to 50ish typically, about 60 or 70, and then anywhere between 70 and 150 depending on where you get it. But so we have a pretty large variety of price ranges here, from almost reasonable to what most people would think would be insane. Um, but everyone has a budget for the most part. Some people out there are so rich they don't have to worry about budgets, but this video is not for them and they aren't watching my channel because they don't care about reviews before they buy things. But if you're going to go purchase a pen, budget is very, very important. If you go into a pen store or you're going online shopping, set a hard budget for yourself. Don't go in for a $10 pen and come out with a $100 pen, because it can really mess up your finances potentially, or you can go in debt. Don't go in debt over a pen. That's just silly. So get something that you can afford, but you want to make sure you like it as well. Next thing I want to have you guys consider is the feeling in your hand. So when you pick up a pen, is it really heavy and you like that, really slick and glossy? Or do you prefer something a lot lighter, a little bit more plasticky feeling, not as glossy? Or do you want something with a nice cold metal finish, with kind of an in-between weight? Pick whatever fits you best. And especially, if possible, try out the pen in your hand before. You may love the look of the Lamy, but when you get it and you see that grip and you hold that grip, you may hate it. Because a lot of people either love or hate that grip. I really enjoy it personally. I like a lot of stuff about this pen, which is why I purchased it, but that grip's fantastic to me, but I know a lot of people that dislike that grip. So try that out before. If you have a pen shop, try it out. I know some sites, like Goulet, they will let you, as long as you don't ink up a pen, you can return it for free. So if you buy, a $4,000 Namiki pen, but you hate the way it feels in your hand, you can return it. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if that changes with the pens that cost as much as a used car, but just keep the feeling in mind, the ergonomics. Keep the weight in mind for what you do. If you take short notes, you won't notice it, but if you're writing long form, get something a little lighter, that will make your hand cramp, or that you won't have to really hold down as you're writing and really crush your fingers. So keep that in mind, the weight, the feeling, the size of the grip. You don't want it to be so small that you're pinching, but you don't want it to be so huge that you can't control the pen. Balance in your hand is also very important. You don't want too front heavy or too back heavy. You want it to be really nice and balanced. So definitely keep that in mind, or you're going to find the pen that you just bought to be very uncomfortable, and that won't be good. Next thing up is the aesthetics. If you hate the way a pen looks, probably don't get it. I don't actually hate the way this pen looks. It just looks very polarizing. But if you don't like the way a pen looks, you'll never pick it up. Ever. So I'm very, very, very considerate about how a pen looks. That's the number one thing. Generally, a lot of relationships are initiated by attraction. Not to compare buying a rolling pin to a relationship, but you have to have that spark of interest before you go and spend, any amount of money, really. Like this is very interesting. I don't really like it, and I'm sure a lot of you hate it, but it's interesting. I personally really, really like the look of these three. These two this one kind of leaves me cold, but this, I like the color of it. It's not the form factor silhouette. But these pens I use regularly just because they interest me. I enjoy using them. They look really nice to me. And some pens, you really hate and end up buying anyway because why not? Um, but I would advise against that generally, unless you just know you're gonna hate it so much you like it kind of thing. Don't get it. If it doesn't interest you visually, you'll never pick it up and you'll never use it, and it'll just sit and gather dust and be a waste. Next thing up is the writing and the build quality. All of the pens I have on this table write very, very well, which is a requirement for me. If I'm going to own a pen, I want it to write. It's a tool. First and foremost, it is a tool. Some pens can go up into being pieces of art. That's great, but that's not what I'm looking for. I want a functional tool that I can use. So your pen can look fantastic, but if it doesn't write, it's not really a writing instrument. So keep that in mind. Make sure the nib is nice and smooth for you. For example, these two here. This nib is a Japanese nib, so it's very fine, but it is a medium, as is this. This provides a little bit of feedback. It's not scratchy, but it does provide some feedback, so you feel the nib while you're on paper. This, on the other hand, is by far the smoothest nib I own at all. It's almost too smooth sometimes. But it's a very, very nice nib, and I find it attractive, and I like that. But the writing experience between these two is very, very different. To be honest, I prefer this one. I prefer smoother nibs, but I still really like the writing experience with this, so I still enjoyed it. But make sure that the pen writes to your satisfaction. If you like feedback, make sure the pen provides feedback. If you hate feedback, make sure it's buttery smooth. Next thing is the build quality. You don't want to get a pen that you don't think is durable. This pen feels very solidly built to me. I have no worries about it cracking or being damaged or anything like that. But some people would because it's very, very plasticky. Same thing with this pen. This pen, the fit and the finish is fantastic. TWSBI does a great job with their pens. Some people wouldn't like it. Some people would jump straight to the Lamy, or in a lot of cases, the Jinhao, because a lot of people tend to associate weight with quality, which is so far from the truth, it's not even funny. Not just in pens, but in a lot of things. But the build quality on this, when you pick it up, it may feel, oh, that's heavy. And a really nice surface, that must be a good build quality. But there's imperfections, and there's finishing issues, and all kinds of things. And when you pay a couple of dollars for a pen, that's not a big deal. But if you pay a ton for a pen and you find small imperfections, they're going to bug you. I try to be overly critical in my reviews, and some of you have pointed that out, which is fine with me. I'm trying to recommend these pens for people that are purchasing them. But there's a seam on this section, which you can kind of see right there. Can you feel it? Yes. Does it bother me? No. I still love this pen. I barely pay attention to that. I didn't even notice it until the review, until right as I was writing for the review. But if that's going to bother you, don't get that pen. So be careful of build quality. If you're fine with some seams and rough spots and stuff, go right ahead. As long as it writes well for you and you don't care, get it. If you want something a bit smoother and more perfect feeling, get something that's very well built, a higher end product, and stick with that. Next thing up, and the last thing, and the biggest thing for me, is value. Now, if you've watched my 20-minute rant/review of the Visconti Rembrandt, you'll know that pen was very expensive. It's the most expensive pen I've bought. And even though it was built fairly well, I didn't feel like it was worth the nearly $200 that I paid for it. That left me cold. I don't use that pen. I never ink it up. It sits in a box. I keep it because of fond memories and nostalgia, but I never use it because the value does not feel like it's there, and it makes me physically sick sometimes to pick up that pen and go, oh, this was $200. I can't stand that. On the other hand, I picked this up in Japan as well and spent $60 on this pen. And this, I've literally found myself thinking I really should have bought one in every single nib size. It's fantastic. Value, even at $150, this would be a great value. TWSBIs, in my opinion, are the kings of value as far as I'm concerned. The fact that you can get a vacuum filler that writes as smooth as TWSBI's default nibs do. I have a second aftermarket nib on this, but the fact that you can get this ink capacity, this build quality, and everything in this package for less than $70 astounds me. The fact that you can get a functional writing instrument for $2 is crazy. In my opinion, all of these on the table are fairly good values for the price I paid for them. Not necessarily street price, but for what I paid for them, I love them. So if you're gonna spend $1,000 on a pen, make sure it feels like $1,000 pen to you. If you're gonna spend $5 on a pen, make sure it feels at least like a $5 pen. Or you're not gonna get to enjoy it. Feel like you're getting a good value or a deal or something. And that way, if it's in your budget, feels good in your hand, you like the way it looks, it writes well, it's built well, and you feel like you got a good value, you're gonna love the pen. Doesn't matter what the price range is, doesn't matter what brand it is, none of that. Gold nib, steel nib, doesn't matter. As long as you like those things about the pen, you're going to enjoy the pen. So just keep that in mind when you're out, buying your next pen. Try to make sure it fits all those boxes for you, or as many of them as you can, look at before purchasing the pen. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep an eye out for hopefully a flood of videos over the coming weeks. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.